How's it going, everyone? My name is Jakejames Lugo, and welcome to the channel, where you'll find some of the most fair and honest game reviews out here. So today, we're talking about what some people consider to be a real classic for the original Xbox, Jade Empire. Now, it's funny because I haven't played this game in so long, and it's finally time for me to sit down and play through it and actually see, is this one of the best RPGs out there, or is it not as good as many remember? Jade Empire was developed for the original Xbox back in 2005. The game was later ported over to the PC in 2007 with a special edition that had a few changes, including new textures, new characters, and a few other goodies. Jade Empire is special for a lot of role-playing game fans because it was developed by the studio BioWare. And not the new BioWare of late, we're talking vintage BioWare, the same team who made the classic Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic for the Xbox a few years prior. It's interesting because Jade Empire borrows a few elements from that game to make something new. But what is the story here? Jade Empire takes place in a world that is heavily inspired by Asian mythology. Your character is the last of a group of spirit monks that were wiped out by the corrupted Emperor Sun Hai. The Emperor rules the Jade Empire and was responsible for many of the hardships that plague its citizens, mostly due to his army using ancient magic and causing the dead to not find peace in the afterlife. After being rescued by your master as a child and trained in the martial arts, you are tasked with fulfilling a great destiny to save the Jade Empire and restore balance to the spirit realm. But who said it will go exactly as planned? This is a BioWare game after all, and things change based on your choices, whether they are good or evil. Will you fulfill your destiny and change the fates of those around you? And more importantly, does this make Jade Empire the classic RPG that many claim it to be?
Men! Gal the Greater wants this village cleared. Get the job done. Longsword. You won't see me coming.
So as far as story is concerned, the plot of Jade Empire will either be hit or miss with most people. If you're into Hong Kong cinema or if you love kung fu action movies, you might like what's happening in here. But for me personally, the one thing I do want to harp on is the environment of Jade Empire, the entire world you get to explore. My main issue is that a lot of these locations aren't that memorable. They started to kind of like blend in together. They look very samey, if that makes any sense. Things are very similar to one another, as opposed to what we had with Knights of the Old Republic. This same developer made that game, and every single one of those locations, on top of the events that happen there, really stand out on their own. They all feel unique, they all feel very different. But in Jade Empire, things just really blend together, and I think it's to the game's detriment. Now, don't get me wrong, the game looks fantastic for a game of that era. It actually looks pretty darn good on the original Xbox. However, like I said, this is a big BioWare RPG, and there's a certain expectation that comes with that for a lot of people. It's not terrible. Let's get that very clear. It's not a terrible rendition of this world of Asian mythology and like all these different locations. They don't look like garbage, but they don't really stand out with me and stick with me long after I finish playing. And unfortunately, the same thing could be said about a lot of these characters. Even though there's a bunch of different allies and enemies that you run into, each with their own backstories and little quirks and characteristics here and there, they all, again, just don't feel all that memorable. Like, some characters seem a little bit more interesting than others, especially with some of the side quests that are tied to their overall stories, to their personalities, and some of their abilities in combat. All that stuff is cool, but I really wanted these to stick with me. I really wanted them to stand out and stay with me long after I finished playing. I feel like once I was done with them, I just kind of forgot everything that was going on, and that's a shame because I didn't feel like that with Knights of the Old Republic, at least, for the most part. Again, these two games were developed very close to each other as far as like the amount of time frame that they were put on the original Xbox. It's not bad, but I expected a little bit more, and I was hoping for a little bit more. Now, that all being said, the big thing with Jade Empire that a lot of people love, especially BioWare fans, is the gameplay, because between the combat and the exploration, there's a lot to talk about here that could be for better or worse. While being set in a mythological Asian empire, there's a heavy focus on combat in here, despite this being an RPG where you could explore the area around you. Fighting isn't fully turn-based, nor is it completely real-time combat. It's a blending of both. You could freely move around during combat and attack enemies. You have 4 different styles of fighting that you could switch between, with extra styles you can equip as you discover and unlock them. There are weapon attacks, magic spells, and variations of both with different effects on you and your enemies. What's interesting is how you could chain together attacks from different styles, which can lead to more damage and crowd control over combat. You also have an ally that accompanies you in combat, which you could change at any time when you're not fighting. The allies are cool, but you only have one at a time and they don't always feel like they're helping out. Some allies also don't fight directly, but instead give you various boosts that you could pick up during combat, which is neat and different. But you'll most likely stick with someone who can actually fight with you in battles instead of hanging out on the side. The other part of Jade Empire is the exploration. Much like other BioWare games, you have these large areas to move around and take on quests from citizens you encounter. Most of the time, you're doing fetch quests or taking out groups of enemies for EXP. Getting around does take time when you have to traverse larger areas, with no real way to speed things up, so exploring can turn into a drag at times. The quests themselves are fine and aren't really a problem, but I do feel like the locations in Jade Empire really lack personality to stand out from everywhere else. Some places look too similar to others or just feel empty. It's not like going to any of the planets from Knights of the Old Republic, where each location looked and felt unique. Unlike in Jade Empire, where even some of the characters you interact feel overly generic at times, with a few standouts far and few in between. There are moments when you could talk to your allies and get some more backstory with them while exploring, which breaks things up a bit, but I still wish that the environments and what I did in them stood out a little bit more and stuck with me for long after I finished playing. So admittedly, in my own game, I did exploit a few things here and there to get over some of the battles I encountered, but I do like the combat system. I think it's much more enjoyable than some of the more turn-based battle systems of that era with various RPGs. I also think that it was really fun and interesting to fight with an ally. Even though it's just one ally, it still was pretty cool getting into like these real-time battles against groups of enemies. It felt like a kung fu movie and it was a lot of fun. And I also really do enjoy the leveling system and the alignment system, which is good and evil, or in the case of this game, open fist and closed fist. That's kind of like their version of good and evil. It was still pretty good. The only kind of nitpick I have with that is that you could become really powerful early on, depending on what you do, the type of side quest you finish, and all the other things that you could focus on. You could become a real powerhouse and like pretty much one-man army the entire stuff that's around the area you're in. However, with the exception of a few boss fights and other encounters, you might have to level up a little bit more and be a little bit more tactile with some of those fights. But other than that, I thought it was enjoyable. Now, my one other nitpick about the gameplay has to do with the karma system itself and the effects that it has on you and the world around you. I felt like this game specifically was a little bit more forgiving than something like Knights of the Old Republic, where in that game, I feel like depending on the alignment that you chose, whether it was good or evil, you really had to commit to that, and depending on what you did, certain things opened up to you and certain things closed to you, and you never got them in that playthrough. With Jade Empire, I feel like things are a lot more forgiving, where I would commit to good in my own playthrough, and some of the stuff that you had to be evil to get early on was closed off, but I would get something similar, if not something better, or the exact same thing a little bit later on, where it came to my character, and it didn't even matter whether I was good or evil whatsoever. I don't necessarily mean the quests themselves and some of those rewards, but some of the things that you could go to, like the shops and other stuff you could discover here and there. Really, it didn't matter what alignment you were at, but at some point, I felt like it needed to really force you to commit either to good or evil, and I never really got that with Jade Empire. So for some people, it might be a good thing. For some people, it might be a bad thing, but I feel like if you're going to put this whole karma system or this alignment system in your game, really force players to choose, because it encourages multiple playthroughs, whether you want to be good or evil. The only other small thing I should comment on in relation to the gameplay are these random minigames that just happen to pop up here and there, sometimes in between chapters. It's like this shmup little minigame where you get to control your glider and take down enemies that are coming at you. It's super random, it almost serves no purpose, and it's just kind of there. It almost reminds me a little bit of those racing scenes from Knights of the Old Republic, where it's like those random pod races that last like 5 seconds, not even, and they're kind of done and you never really go back to them. This is kind of like in the same fashion, and it didn't really impact my game all that much. I never failed them, so I don't really know if they have like a negative effect or whatnot. But if they weren't there to begin with, I would be totally fine. Like, they just serve no purpose, and they're just kind of thrown in there for the sake of being thrown in there. Why even include them in the first place? So after everything that I've said, what can we conclude from all of this? Can I recommend that you play Jade Empire on any platform? I think that the game is good if you love BioWare-style RPGs, but if you want to see the best that BioWare has to offer, then this wouldn't be my first recommendation. I feel like you could get a better experience that is more memorable if you played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic instead. A lot of what you get in Jade Empire is in that game, except for the active combat, which I really like in here. That doesn't make Jade Empire bad by any means. It's still a pretty good game to check out. You'll be busy playing it for just under 30 hours if you decide to do everything. But the honest truth is that Jade Empire wouldn't be the first BioWare game that I would say you need to play. Some players might disagree with me on that, and I understand why. But I think that all of us can agree that Jade Empire was intriguing for RPG fans nonetheless.
Destiny has a way of changing the rules. We've come this far. I could not bear to lose you.
If you two are through, we must find your master, and the truth of what has been happening in the Empire. I can only hope that my father has been the victim in this. I pray he has the answers I seek. The fate of the Empire depends on it.
And there you go, everyone. Those are my thoughts about Jade Empire on the original Xbox. I played this on an Xbox Series S, but you can play it in multiple spots now, including PC. Yeah, I think this is still a classic. It's not one that I feel like you have to play. You have to run out and go get Jade Empire right now. But I think that if you're an RPG enthusiast or if you're a big BioWare fan, you should definitely play this because this is from an era where people considered that to be the best of BioWare because we had this and Knights of the Old Republic 1 and many other RPGs that were considered classics of that era. I feel like if you're curious about this stuff or if you just want to play more BioWare games, definitely check it out when you can. But I don't feel like it's a must play. Like, it's not like one of the best of its generation, the best of the genre. It's good with a couple problems here and there. So if you're curious about it, or if you like Kung Fu movies, or if you just like BioWare, check it out and judge for yourself. But as always, that's just my opinion about Jade Empire. Let me know some of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Tell me, are you a big BioWare fan? Have you gotten a chance to play Jade Empire? Did you check out all the new content from the PC version? Do you want to see a sequel to this game? I know some people have brought this up over the years, saying that it was actually really good, even though, again, I have my own opinions about it now, but I actually wouldn't be opposed to seeing a new game, or even a remake of Jade Empire, and actually giving it a different touch, you know, with modern sensibilities as far as gameplay is concerned, making things a little bit more action-oriented, borrowing from, like, Final Fantasy VII Remake or Final Fantasy 15, and making this, like, a real, like, Kung Fu action RPG. Like, this would be pretty wild, but those are just some Spitfire thoughts. Let me know your own thoughts about this in the comment section down below. This channel is sponsored by Flynn's Arcade and More, located in Margate, Florida. Flynn's is one of the premier spots for gaming fans in South Florida. They have a variety of arcade games on cabinet for you to play throughout the week, including all of your beloved classics. You could also play a ton of new and current console games too, on PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo consoles. Grab a snack or drink and enjoy the best gaming experience you'll find. Visit during one of their many big events to connect with the gaming community in South Florida. Want to test your skills in competitive fighting games? Join any of the weekly tournaments that happen at Flynn's for a chance for some cool prizes. And if you're into tabletop gaming or model kit building, there's a bunch of events there for you too. Swing by Flynn's Arcade and More, located in Margate Boulevard in Margate, Florida. You won't find a better spot than Flynn's. Hey, thanks everyone for watching this video. I appreciate your support as always, and hope that you can subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. I'll have a few more great ones for you to check out in the end cards afterwards. Don't forget you could join my Discord server via the link in the description to be part of the community and come hang out with everyone, talking games and more. I hope to see you around again sometime soon. Peace out, and stay epic, everyone.